All right, hello, welcome everyone. This is Camille and Guillaume from Idalco. We've got attendees coming in from the webinar, so let's wait a minute or two so that everyone gets here, and then we can begin. Okay, so let's start. Welcome everyone to the Mastering JQL in Jira Cloud webinar. JQL is something that everyone working in Jira uses almost every day. It's also something that many of you have already encountered. You might have used filters, dashboard, various Jira reports based on JQL, or you might have seen some JQL queries written out in the past. This webinar aims to introduce how to use JQL, what it is used for, to show you some good resources for learning it, and what are the best practices of using it. First, some introductions. My name is Kamil Ber, I come from Prague, and I have been working for Atlassian Partners for 6 years. Outside of this, I have administered the Atlassian toolset for Vodafone Czech Republic for a year and a half, and my specialty or a hobby of sorts during my work is cleaning up cluttered Jiras and Confluences, low-performing instances, and setting some usage standards and good governance. Along with me here is Guillaume Lorquet. Guillaume, could you please take a minute to introduce yourself?
Hey all, thanks to join this workshop. I'm Guillaume, I am consultant from Idalco. I come from Belgium and I work now with the Atlassian product and work deeply with Atlassian product for a few years now. I am also certified with Confluence and Jira, and I know, I think, all platforms that you can imagine with Atlassian's product. So I did the same kind of workshop last week with Camille, so I will do my best to support him during this presentation. And if you have any question, please feel free to use the chat, and I will do my best to provide you with some response. Or maybe I could also ask to Camille to present it in live, if it's possible, depending of the question that you will ask.
And as you said, our roles in these webinars will be twofold. I will be presenting today's content, and Guillaume will answer the questions that you, the viewers, will have. So, after a brief introduction to the topic of JQL, while we'll go over what exactly is JQL used for and why is it beneficial to learn it, we'll proceed into the following three areas. Parts of JQL, which components are JQL queries actually made of, and how can you assemble them yourself? JQL's use cases and how to set them up. And finally, the fourth topic, the various advanced JQL tricks for experienced users. We will also speak briefly about how to extend the existing JQL features with some of the third-party apps that are available on the Atlassian marketplace. However, we do not really want this to be like a one-way lecture or a speech or something, but more of a workshop. What this means is that if you have any questions or comments, please write them down in chat. We will answer throughout the course. That said, it's been proven that the more you ask and the more you engage, the more will you get from the webinar. So don't hesitate and let us know if you have something in your mind during the course. And as for the time frame, the webinar should take somewhere around 40 to 60 minutes the most. So, first of all, a question for you. Why are you here? And why have you decided to attend this webinar about JQL? Let us know in the chat first.
Looks great.
Mail or got the reference from colleagues. All right, that's interesting. Interested in this topic, or what would you like to learn today or hear about today? And maybe Guillaume could tell us what interested the attendants in our last webinar. Guillaume, if you would.
Yeah, sure. So last week, we had kind of overview of the features, possibilities that you have with the JQL, and most of people have a different level. So that will be my next question. What is your JQL level, if it's beginner, intermediate, or expert? So depending of your level and your knowledge about the JQL, of course, you will expect, for example, just to get some chart on your dashboard, or maybe people are expecting to do some specific filter to create a board. And then you could also create some queues for Jira service management. So the JQL are clearly used in a lot of way with Jira. So depending of your position in the company, for example, if you are people from the board, or if you are someone that use Jira for development as a developer, probably you won't expect the same thing and the same result at the end. So that will be something we will cover during the session, of course. But in this case, most of them were just there to get some better understanding of what is the JQL, how does it work, and maybe if I am already an expert, how could I improve my knowledge about the JQL, probably by using something like some add-ons or something like that.
And I'm sorry for maybe mispronouncing the name, that we need to find things like epics and initiatives and stories and epics. That's definitely something we will cover in the advanced part of the course, so you'll definitely get an answer. We got whether JQL is different in the cloud. It is, but not so much. I would say that like 90% of the basics is the same. There's a slight difference in the add-ons that offer JQL, but more on that later. Good experience with JQL, right? Customization for better queries and running reports. Yes, I think that's also something we'll go over in the workshop. Okay, so let's move on. So, what exactly is JQL, and why should it benefit you or any Jira user to learn it? Well, first of all, JQL means Jira Query Language, a language used in Jira to create certain queries. That's the absolute basic of what exactly JQL is. It's a tool for finding the right issues. Now, this makes a little more sense as to why should you want to use it, because you do want to search for the right issues, and in big Jira instances, you can quickly get overwhelmed by thousands, maybe tens of thousands of issues. So you need to find the right scope, and that's what JQL is used for. Next, it's a language that's native to Jira. That's quite important because it's not used in Confluence. CQL is used there instead, albeit very sparsely, nor anywhere else. So even though it might sound similarly to SQL, it's not SQL either. as it doesn't use the same syntax or keywords. So JQL is unique to Jira. And finally, JQL is used in many places in Jira. You could even say that it or its benefits are used every day by Jira users. Some of the examples where JQL is used are Jira filters, dashboards, customer boards, agile boards, and in various places in third-party apps and integrations. However, what isn't JQL, I believe it's important to clarify what JQL is, as it's just as useful to say what it isn't. Again, even though it sounds similar and uses similar mechanics, like SQL, as both are query languages, JQL is not structured query language as in SQL you would use for database work, nor it is a programming language that you would first need to be learning for a long time before you start using it. It's very different. However, it also isn't hard to learn. When you start writing JQL, the system guides you and helps you finish the JQL query you're trying to create, which is useful. Something like a lint tool in programming tools. And finally, it's not something you could simply skim over when you're learning Jira. If you know JQL, your work in Jira is much, much more easier. Now, why is JQL important? Well, one of the reasons is that you can simply search more efficiently using Jira's advanced search feature and find the right issues you're looking for. Another reason is that you can save your search in the form of a filter and put this filter on your dashboard, either as a list of issues, a visual report, or a chart. This way, you'll see the most important tasks at first glance the next time you log into Jira. JQL is also frequently used in Agile boards, as I said, to scope the work properly and add various quick filters or swim lanes. Finally, third-party apps use JQL for various operations of their own, such as automatic operations in automation for Jira, which was not too long ago added to Jira Cloud as a native feature, creating boxes and scopes in Big Picture, creating structures in Structure, working with scripts in Script Owner, things like that. So let's have a look at which parts is JQL built of and its use cases. The first use is advanced searching. And what it is exactly? Well, when you want to search for particular issues, you either use a basic search or an advanced search. A basic search is a mode where you click on select lists with various Jira fields like projects, issue types, or statuses to create a filter, just like you would choose columns in Excel. Advanced search is a mode where you also create the criteria for searching, but you write them out in JQL. So it's two modes of searching, basic and advanced. Now, why exactly would you need to use advanced search? Why not just use the basic search feature, or you click on the select lists? Well, advanced search brings many more features on the table. You can use functionalities that wouldn't be available from the basic search, such as ordering, using keywords like or, and more on that later, or search for empty fields. You can also use functions which help you search for very specific issues, like subtasks of a linked issue or issues with attachments. Now, many of these functions are brought by third-party apps, which again, we'll be covering later. You can also combine multiple searches together using the OR keyword, which is useful if you're searching for two or more subset of issues. For example, let's say you have two kinds of issues that you need to pay attention to. Tasks from a development project and change requests from a service desk project in the for review status. But you don't want to see developer issues in the for review status. So what do? Use the OR keyword. Again, we'll be showing an example of this use case later. Finally, you can reuse the same JQL query in multiple places that do not support basic search. For example, Jira software boards. This is an example of a rather average JQL query. We will disassemble it and take a look at what it's built of. First, a JQL query is built from fields. Fields contain information that we know about an issue. For example, the project field contains the information about what project an issue is located in. A common example of a field is, as mentioned, project, type, summary, or due date. If it displays something in an issue or can display something in an issue even though it's empty, it's a field. In our example, the project, type, and assignee parts of the JQL query are all fields. The second part of JQL queries are values. Values are actual pieces of information that a field can contain. In a JQL query, a value is something we choose and to which we compare real issue data to. Value in fields can change over time. For example, if you were searching for issues in the dev project on the 1st of March, and the issues are moved the day after to another project, if you search for issues in the dev project again, it won't display the same issues because the value of the project field has changed. Some examples are dev in the project field, bug in the issue type field, or the 1st of March in the due date field. In our example, the dev, bug, and current user parts of the JQL query are all values. The third part of JQL queries are operators. Operators are often mathematical signs: equal to, does not equal to, larger than, smaller than, is, in, and so on. Now, you pick an operator based on what exactly you want to do with the value in the query. For example, do you want to find all issues with the chosen value? Then you would choose the equal to sign. Do you want to find all issues with a larger value? For example, a larger number of story points than 3 or a date later than the 1st of March? Then you would choose the larger than sign. What is also important is that each field might have a different operator used for it. We'll go more about that on the next page. In our example, the equals to signs and the does not equal to sign are operators. So we're searching for all issues that are from the project dev that are not a bug and that the assignee is the current user. Here are the three most often used data types. Character data, which means text and sentences, text fields like summary, description, small text field, large text field, custom fields. Date data, for example, due date, updated date, created date. Date time custom fields. And numeric data, like original estimate, story points, number of reopens, logged work, and others. Each has its own set of operators that can be used. For example, in the character data, we would use the like sign, but we couldn't use it in the numeric data type. So we got text, dates, and numbers. And they all have their own operators. The fourth element, or the final part of JQL queries, are keywords. Keywords are inserted in between the trios of fields, operators, and values. They join these building blocks of JQL queries together to create one large JQL query. Now, you can have a JQL query without keywords. It can be as simple as project is equal to def, and that's it. However, to create some more complex or advanced JQL queries, you would definitely use keywords. The most used ones are and, or, and order by. You would use the end query when making your JQL query more and more specific. This is called scoping. You specify a JQL query until you arrive at the necessary issues field, For example, you want to search for all issues in the project dev, but you still have like 1,000 issues over there. So you need to make the scope more specific. So we would specify the JQL query by saying, okay, I also want to search for our bugs, all issues that are of the type bug. All right, there's still like several hundred issues, so you want to see only the issues that are assigned to you. So again, you would add, for example, and, not or, and assignee current user, and you would arrive at the necessary issues you were looking for. So that's where we would use and to specify the search scope. You would use the or keyword if you want to display 2 or more sets of values. In our example, we're displaying either bugs from the dev project or all issues to which the currently logged in user is assigned to. Finally, the order by keyword is always used at the end of a JQL query and specifies how will the issues be sorted, in which order, and by which fields. This is also a good example of an advanced search use case because you cannot use keywords like or order by in a basic search. It only uses the and keyword. So those are the 4 parts of JQL which you use to create JQL queries. Fields, which are on Jira issues and contain information, although they might not always be visible. Values, the actual pieces of information. Operators, which we choose to determine the relation between values in the JQL query and the search results. And a field, a value, and an operator together create a basic JQL query, which, if joined together with keywords with another field, value, and operator, could create a larger JQL query or a more specific one. Now, you shouldn't be expected to learn all of this right now. There are many tools inside Jira to help you learn JQL. One of them is the possibility to transform a basic search to an advanced search, a JQL query. Simply create a basic search. In our example, we've chosen the project, an issue type, and you can pick whatever other field and then click Switch to JQL. That way you can learn how exactly is the information structured and how it looks in the advanced search. Another helpful feature is the autocomplete. What this means is that as you type your query into the search box, Jira will suggest what might come next. When learning JQL, it's better to listen to what the search box suggests. In the example, I have typed the field, project, an operator equals to, and the search box have already offered me the next possible values. I'd also like to tell you about JQL cheat sheet made by Atlassian that you can see on the link above. On the link, you can print an easy guide to JQL that you can use as a reminder of sorts of what we were talking about here. Finally, you can also read more about each of these objects in the Atlassian documentation. Fields, operators, and keywords have their own documentation spaces of sorts, so you can learn more about them there. And there's also functions, which we will cover in the advanced JQL section. All right. So before we move on, I'd like to ask if there are any questions regarding the parts or the components of JQL. This is quite important to get right, so don't be shy and ask if you have any questions. Move on. The next topic will be practical uses of JQL queries during your everyday work. The first use case for JQL, which I believe is also the most frequent one, is filters. Filters are JQL queries that have been saved for further use later. This is practical if you don't want to retype the same long query again and again. What filters also are reusable lists of issues. So you can share these lists as filters are shareable with other team members. This has a clear benefit of other people not needing to write out whole complex filters or JQL queries. You can simply share your filter with them. Another benefit of filters is that you can create a subscription where you'll get their contents periodically. This is super useful when you're watching issues with, let's say, overdue due dates or tickets with important SLA times. Let's have a live demo of how filters work. All right, so right now I'm on my demo instance, and let's see how filters work. So we'll be searching for issues over here. So we'll pick Advanced Issue Search. And over here, we're in Advanced Search. So let's pick a project to find issues in. So let's say project would be training. As you can see, the autocomplete already tells me what should I type. I will create a very basic filter which says project training project, and type is story. So I can save the search as a filter by using the Save As button. I'll call it training filter. So I've created a filter and I can access it in the filters menu. I don't have to retype the query again. I can also share it with other users. Let's say everyone from the Jira Software users team. So everyone in this group can now search for this training filter. I can also create a subscription. What this means is that at a predefined time, I'll get a notification with the contents of the filter. So I can either subscribe a group or simply myself to receive the contents of this filter on the 1st of every month at, let's say, 9 a.m. and click subscribe. And that's how I would create a subscription for a filter. It's very useful if you're working with SLAs or due dates. Let's move on. Now, dashboards are the next step. Dashboards are what you see when you log into Jira. They're assembled from gadgets, which each show a particular filter. Again, a piece of JQL information. This way, you are informed of all important issue information when you log in at first glance. As an example, you see all issues with overdue SLAs, escalated tickets, and tickets with, let's say, reached due dates at one place. You can also assemble a dashboard with issues assigned to each team member, or let's say an Agile board. So you see everything important at one place. The upside here is that once you place these filters on the dashboard, you don't need to create their JQL queries again. Dashboards also offer you the option to create more visually appealing reports, such as pie charts or two-dimensional filters. And just like filters, you can share dashboard or a dashboard with other team members, which means that they will be given a list of important issue data without them needing to create a dashboard themselves. You can also have multiple dashboards for different types of data. one for service desk issues, another for overseeing resource allocation, for example, like who has which issues assigned and why. Again, let's have a demo of how to work with dashboards. Okay, so assembling a dashboard is quite simple. You would go to the dashboards menu and then create a dashboard. And name it. You can also change the sharing options, so you can make it available for, again, everyone from the Jira Software Users Group. And at first, you don't see anything over here because it's a new dashboard. And dashboards are composed of gadgets, which all carry a piece of information or a report or some other statistic. So you would build your dashboards from gadgets. So let's add a new gadget here. There's plenty of gadgets actually just in the native Jira. So many add-ons can also add their own gadgets here. But let's keep it simple. We want to show one filter here. So the gadget which will show the filter is named filter results. You would add it, something happens in the background, and we'll also add a pie chart to get some very basic reporting. Again, I would search for pie chart, and add it as a gadget. In filter results, I want to see the filter without train filter. I can change the fields that I want to save it. So whenever I want to display this dashboard again in the future, it will show me the subset of issues that I've just created the filter for. It's very similar when creating a report like a pie chart. You would need to use a saved filter for it and choose a statistic that we will report on. So let's say the status. And we've built a very basic report on a filter made out of JQL. Right. So the next use case for JQL are Agile boards. For Agile boards, the knowledge of JQL is very helpful because Scrum and Kanban boards are actually based on filters. These boards are basically a comprehensive visualization of a subset of issues divided by statuses and columns. And with the help of JQL, not only you can correctly scope which issues will you see on the Agile board and fix potential problems such as some issues not being visible, you can also make your users work much easier. How? For example, by using quick filters to show only some of the issues on your Agile board. Let's say you can create a quick filter for every assignee or the subset of issues under a particular epic. This way, you can filter the list of issues with the click of a button. And the same goes for swim lanes. You can divide a large board based on JQL queries by, let's say, putting the issues with the highest and the high priority on top of all the others. Let's take a look at where exactly would you use JQL in dashboards, or in this case, the Agile dashboards. Okay, so I've got a Kanban board over here. And when I go and try to configure it, I'll find out that the board itself is based on a saved filter. Whenever you work on a board or create a board, a filter is always created. And many times it happens that you don't see some of the important issues here in the board. So you need to check the filter and the filter query. Also, the filter that the board is based on needs to be shared for other people to be able to view it. So you could change a filter the board is based on by clicking Edit Filter Query and then changing it in the familiar view. Also, when working with the Agile boards, you can also create some quick filters and swim lanes, again based on JQL. So if I want to see some issues that do not have an assignee, let's say unassigned issues, which is useful if you want to see if there are any, let's say, work left to be assigned, then you would write the JQL query over here. We would use the keyword is empty. Assignee is empty. We haven't talked about this keyword yet, the is and empty keywords. So you would use the is keyword when you would like to find issues with an empty field or issues that have something in the field, that the field is not empty. So you would either go assignee is empty or the assignee is not empty to find all the issues that do have an assignee. So let's go with the is empty first. I'll add it. And the same would go for swim lanes. We could base a swim lane on a JQL query. All right, we got a swim lane here. So when we go back to the board, I'll unassign one of the issues here. So this one is unassigned. Well, both are unassigned actually. So I'll assign one of them. So we got a swim lane for unassigned issues. And then for everything else, that was the second use case. And the first use case was the unassigned issue quick filter over here. This way, we can easily filter only some of the issues that we want to see. A good use case for automation is also, let's say, the scoping and the conditional automation execution. So an important part of Jira Cloud is the automation for Jira plugin, the benefits of which can also be enjoyed on server and data center deployments if it's bought as a separate add-on. JQL becomes useful when using this plugin when you are creating an automation that is based on a subset of issues. Let's say you're creating an automation rule that sends a notification if there are any tickets with the SLA timers that are ending soon. You would then create a JQL filter that first searches for these issues to send a notification about. Second, you use JQL in automation if there are, let's say, 2 or more possible ways to deal with a certain subset of issues. Let's say you have an automatic operation that would either close or send a notification about a set of tickets based on their properties. Let's say if an issue has been left without an update for 7 days, you can add a comment that asks the reporter if he wants to add something. Otherwise, the ticket will be closed. However, the rule can branch based on this comment if it was already added. So in that case, you would create a JQL that searches for tickets where this comment was already added. If the issue has been inactive for another 7 days, Jira will automatically close it. Finally, if you're automating certain changes on a set of issues, let's say you want to close issues that haven't been active for 14 days, you would again use JQL to set the right scope. Let's take a look at how exactly would you use JQL in an automation for Jira system. So as an admin, I can configure some of the automations in the automation rules section. I'll create a custom rule. So let's say I want to close all the issues that haven't been updated for 7 days, for example. First, I create a scheduled operation. And I want it to run quite frequently. And I would like to transition an issue, let's say, to the closed status. However, first I needed to pass a certain condition. And that would be that the status, the updated date field well, for some reason, I sadly can't find it. So let's try another automation rule. I think the right component to add. Just a minute. All right, that's this one. And then the condition, that's the JQL condition. So the JQL condition would be the issue haven't been updated for more than, say, seven days. I'm not really sure if I made your right JQL query, so I'll check it in the regular filters search. So I need to find all issues that have been updated smaller than -7 days. And it's correct. I can only find issues that have been updated in the past. So I'll use this query. Updated is smaller than 7 days ago. I'll save it. I'll turn the automation on. And what I have now is a rule that says that every hour, if the issue matches JQL, transition the issue to closed. I'm going to delete it, otherwise it would close everything on my testing instance. Sometime later. So we do use JQL also in automation for Jira. And that's not all. We could use it in many other apps, like Script Runner, for example, for setting the, let's say, the right scripted automations or listeners or some jobs or workflow operations based on a set of issues. Similarly to, let's say, Jira Miss workflow extensions or JSU. Or we can use it in big picture. You may create a scope of a box, again, based on a filter. Same goes for a structure for Jira, where JQL will help you find the right scope for a structure. In rich filters for Jira dashboards, which will soon be imported on cloud, you can create so-called smart filters and static filters that can help you filter issues you use in your rich filter, very similarly to quick filters in Agile boards. And finally, in Confluence, even though it's not an app, if you need to add a set of issues to a page, you will need to understand JQL to put the right set of issues in the document. Let's see an example from Confluence. How do you work with JQL in Confluence? So I'll create a very basic query first. Training. I'll connect to Confluence. I'll pick a random page. So we would add a Jira filter using JQL to Confluence through a macro. And that macro is called, well, Jira. And here we have a familiar search bar where we are writing a JQL. So I'll add my previous JQL query here. I'll run a search. I see the issues that I need. I might need to scope it a little bit to just see tasks. All right, I'll insert it. I'll save the page. And I can see my Jira issues here. Again, I used JQL to do just that, to add a few JQL queries here, a very simple one, type equals to task and project equals to training. And I see the issues in the document. So those are some of the main use cases for which you will need the knowledge of JQL. Filters and dashboards are for everyday Jira users and can save you a lot of time when you know how to build them. Same with automations and Agile boards, which are up to the Scrum Masters and administrators to set up. And finally, the apps. No matter which set of apps you're using, chances are you will be required to utilize JQL sooner or later. What this means is that no matter the user level or experience, JQL is useful and sometimes necessary for everyone using Jira. Before we move on, are there any questions regarding JQL usage and use cases? Or perhaps have you personally struggled with JQL in the past and would like to share your experience and how you solved the case? Again, let us know in the comments. The next module. Let's go through the advanced cases of JQL and several apps that you can use to extend JQL's functionalities. The functions are the fifth element of JQL, next to fields, operators, values, and keywords. They are much more advanced, and how they work isn't usually as apparent. The functions are words, or sets of words, that end with parentheses and usually perform complex operations on variable or dynamic data, such as finding the current time and day or the currently logged in user, or the currently active sprints. The difference between functions and values is that values are static, while functions return data that change all the time, such as the current time or the currently logged in user, as I've said before. An example of function is the current user function in our example JQL query. What this query does is that it will search for all issues where the assignee is the currently logged in user. What I mean by that is that the user that you are currently logged in under. So if you would log under a different user, it would find his issues or her or hers issues. What this means is that it will return different results for each user. And that is the difference between a function and a static value. You can find the list of all possible Jira functions in the official documentation. Sometimes you might be required to write something in the brackets, and that's exactly what the documentation covers. There are many functions, however, so which ones are the most useful? Here, we will give a few of our recommendations for those functions that are used, well, quite often. The current user function, which we already mentioned, says the currently logged in user as a value. You can use it when making dashboards shared by various users that need to see the issues where they are the assignees, but also the reporters or watchers, and so on. You would write it as assignee or reporter equals to current user parentheses. Another interesting function is the now function. This sets the current time as the value. This is useful when you want to search for SLAs that are breached or due dates that are overdue. Again, very useful to have this as a part of a filter on your dashboard or a queue from a service desk where you see the breached issues immediately without having to search for them. An interesting feature of the now function is that you can write a number of days or hours into the brackets, let's say 3D or 7D or 4H. To refine your search further, such as now minus 1 day, would insert the value of a day ago on this time. So our example, the due date is smaller than now, will show us all the issues with the due date in the past. A function particularly useful for those of you working in Scrum is the open sprints function. This sets all of the currently open sprints as the value and searches for all issues that are in currently open sprints. Open means that the the sprint hasn't ended yet. It wasn't closed. Finally, the members of function is used to find all issues whose reporters, assignees, or user picker fields have a user from a certain group. This one needs you to specify the group into quotation marks inside of the parentheses. Without it, this function wouldn't work. It wouldn't know which group are we looking for. There are many JQL apps on the market, many of them working on both cloud and server and also on data center. They usually add new functions that aren't a part of Jira, such as searching through attachments, searching through subtasks, through issue links. Let's review a few of those. In addition to other interesting features, Script Runner app adds many new JQL functions based on a new field it adds named issue function, which enables users to use one of the package functions that come with Script Runner. So whenever you want to use any of these new functions, you would start the JQL command with the field issue function, and then as the operator, you would choose in. Some of the notable functions are that you can search for all subtasks of parents of issues or parents of issues in a certain JQL query, or that you can search for all issues that were added after a sprint had started, which might be useful to prevent scope creep in a running sprint. Or you can search for all issues in a certain JQL search with a specific link type. Another interesting plugin is the JQL Tricks plugin. It's another one that extends the searching functionalities by using a so-called issue alias. It's a new field. It's a new word that you would place in where you would usually write out the field in a JQL query. These are fields that begin with JQLT and bring various search functions. For example, you can search for all issues with a certain number of attachments or of a certain attachment type or with a certain attachment name. As you can see, they all begin with JQLT and then some other command or syntax. The third app we will cover is probably with the longest name. It's called JQL Search Extensions for Jira and Reports. And similarly to the JQL Tricks plugin, this app also utilizes new fields to filter better. This app allows you to use, for example, regular expressions during your JQL search. In the example, we have shown a query that searches for issues with summaries, starting with the word hello. It also has some of the JQL Tricks features too, like the ability to search for issues with a certain number of attachments. Or you can search for subtasks with a parent in a particular status, which is useful when you're browsing issues in unfinished tasks. And right now, this has been the fourth module on the advanced use cases and the JQL apps. And now it's your time. Do you have any questions or comments about the topics of JQL? We haven't covered absolutely everything because, again, the topic is fairly broad. But for a start, this webinar could be useful as an introduction to the whole JQL problematic. Also, what topics would you like to hear about in our next webinars? Let us know in the chat. Guillaume, do you have an experience with Exporter? I can't really remember that app.
Yeah, I have some, but I would like to get more information about it because, Jemani, what is your expectation about Exporter Hub? Because to me, Exporter Hub is a way to export some ticket in a specific format, like a Word document, PDF document, or something like that. So I would like to know exactly what is the link that you do with the Exporter Hub. Thanks to you. Then I'm going to answer to Pam during the time that Jemani provides more explanation. So Pam, as you have probably seen, there's no real huge difference between the cloud and the server environment or even the data center environment. So most of the times JQL works in the same way. So you can imagine that if you have learned like me as a JQL on the server environment, you will be able to work also on the cloud environment. Sometimes you can find some difference. For example, the name of one specific field could be different or something like that. But then normally, don't be afraid about it because there is no huge difference between them. And Andrea, yes, a recording will be sent to you by email after the session. So if some of you had some trouble with the connection or even were not able to connect to all the session, don't worry, you will get the recording then. And if you would like to share it with your colleagues or anyone could be interested in, feel free to share it to any people.
The cloud and server JQL is that you see the format of the field when you're working with JQL. So if you're writing your JQL search in, let's say, with some custom field, then it will show what type the custom field is in the autocomplete section. So that's quite nice, as you can approximate the operators you would be using for that particular type of field.
And we had also a question regarding the time management in Jira. So you have a lot of features about it, and of course, out of the box, Jira allows you to log your time on an issue, to edit the original estimate, the time spent, and the remaining estimate. Then, based on this, it creates kind of a ratio, and so tell you if you are in the good way or not. But if you would like to do more than this, so imagine that planning some time on an issue for some team, linked to an account, I don't know, maybe know exactly the price, the fee related to a specific project, etc. In this case, you will need more than just Jira, because it's just a way to lock your time on an issue. It's not so specific. So most of the time we talk about add-on like Tempo, for example, which is probably the most famous one, that allows you to plan some time, to get some reports, to get some charts, generate your teams, etc. So if you need more than Jira offers you, of course, you could directly go to the marketplace and probably just use a keyword like, for example, time or time management, etc. And anytime you will do it, you will see that it proposes you, for example, Tempo. And you can get also from Bob Swift, for example, reports and timesheet for Jira that allows you to get more reports and timesheet. And you also have some things like automation system with a clockwork, automated, timesheet pro, etc. So you have a lot of add-ons on the marketplace for this. To see if it's possible to have another webinar about this topic, Gemini, I don't think we will cover this kind of thing, because most of the time the webinar are just here to explain you all the Atlassian's products, and then we can also cover some nice, interesting thing about some add-ons, but we won't propose a webinar about a specific add-on. But if you want, Gemini, what we can do for you, if you want, just send us an email, and we could also have a kind of private session just to see if we could support you during this project and just provide you with some answers. So not sure you could have a webinar of 2 hours or something like that about this topic, but we could probably help you and support you during this process. It's not a problem.
Interesting webinar, as in how to use Exporter in your everyday work. It might be an interesting use case, but I think that what Gemini asks is quite specific, and we can actually help out much efficiently, so to say, in a one-to-one session.
Looks great.
So if there aren't any other questions, then thank you very much for listening to today's webinar. We are Kamil Ber and Guillaume Lurquet from Idalco, and you have attended the Mastering JQL in Jira Cloud webinar. Again, we would very much like to ask for your feedback and criticism, as in what went well, what would you improve, what would you like to see next, what topics would you like to have covered in future webinars, or if you have any trouble with JQL, we can of course help, just like we did our other customers. If you need any help with JQL or any of the other related topics, you can contact me at the provided email and we'll get back to you soon. So thanks again for your participation, for your questions and comments, and have a good rest of the day.
Thanks to you, Camille. Have a nice day, all of you.